Hi, I am Tommy Pierce, and I chose Chapter 1 for this Freakonomics video assignment. This chapter is called, What Do School Teachers and Sumo Wrestlers Have in Common? As this chapter and the rest of the book explains, economics is the study of incentives, which are ways to get people to do rather good than bad things. The chapter presents a discussion of cheating and how with the proper incentives, everyone can be motivated to cheat. For instance, the authors argue that high-stakes testing in schools is a strong incentive for teachers to cheat on their students' tests, and that data taken from the Chicago public school system reveals that teachers in fact do cheat, and because of this incentive, teachers may either be rewarded with bonuses, raises, etc., or they may be punished, like fired or refused pay raises, etc. So based on that, that's all based on their students' test scores. So teachers also have a strong incentive to cheat because there's little likelihood that they will be caught. To test whether teachers are cheating, the CPS, or the Chicago Public School System, like I said earlier, makes available to researchers that the test answers for all CPS students from 3rd through 7th grade from 1993 to 2000. The researchers then create a system to show what a cheating teacher's classroom might look like. For instance, the researchers look for unusual answer patterns, such as blocks of identical answers in a single classroom, particularly among the harder questions. And the researchers also look for strange patterns in the answers of individual students, such as a student who answers hard questions correctly while answering easy questions incorrectly. Finally, the researchers use the system to detect the classrooms where, over the 3-year period, student scores are low the first year, go way up the second year, which is the cheating year, and then go way back down the third year. Freakonomics then turns to a discussion of cheating in sports. As the authors explain, sports is common with cheating because cheating is the most common in the face of clear incentives, such as winning or losing. The authors then argue that the data reveal that sumo wrestlers cheat to lose because of the incentive scheme that rules sumo wrestling. In the study of sumo wrestling and cheating, the data are the results from almost every official sumo match among the top-ranking Japanese sumo wrestlers between January of 1989 and January of 2000, which amounts to 32,000 bouts fought by 281 wrestlers. The book notes a sumo wrestler's ranking affects every aspect of his life, including how much money he earns, how much he eats and sleeps, etc. For instance, the 66 highest ranking Japanese wrestlers are considered the sumo elite. And a wrestler at the top of this elite group might make millions of dollars and enjoy great prestige. The point of the chapter that I found the most compelling was when the authors discuss whether people are generally honest or dishonest. The authors suggest that the answer to this question can be found in an experiment conducted by a man named Paul Feldman. Feldman runs a business selling bagels in which he delivers bagels to offices and leaves a box for people to pay for the bagels they eat. Feldman keeps strict records of his sales, and Feldman's data reveals that his customers pay for their bagels around 87% of the time. Feldman's data also shows that on holidays such as Thanksgiving and Christmas, when stress levels tend to be higher, people are less honest. People are also less honest on bad weather days, according to this information. Finally, Feldman's data reveals that executives of the companies cheat more than everyone else in the company. Although Feldman theorizes that this perhaps demonstrates that the executives have a sense of entitlement, the Freakonomics authors suggest, alternatively, that perhaps executives cheat their way to the top. The chapter interested me because I liked the approach the authors took from starting at how teachers cheat and help their students to do much better than they should be doing, and then went to how sumo wrestlers cheat to win. It's really all about honesty or dishonesty, which I really enjoyed about how this chapter focused on. And now, on to Grant for the Chapter 3 summary of Freakonomics.
Chapter 3, Freakonomics tackles the subject of conventional wisdom and in providing information about a study from drug dealers, argues that often it can simply just not be true. The chapter begins by discussing the concept of conventional wisdom itself, noting that the phrase is first brought about by economist John Kenneth Galbraith, who observes that the conventional wisdom must be simple, convenient, comfortable, and comforting, though not necessarily true. He points out that experts often work with journalists to form the conventional wisdom, and very often experts will skew data and even lie to better benefit themselves. For instance, in the 1990s, homeless advocate Mitch Snyder testifies before Congress that there are 3 million homeless people in America. The problem with this statistic is that it means that 1 out of every 100 Americans is homeless, which seemed a bit high. Snyder eventually admits that he has fabricated the 3 million homeless figure. As the last example, Freakonomics points to the fact that in early 1990s, when Atlanta is a contender for the 1996 Olympics, Atlanta police intentionally underreported crime so that Atlanta will appear safer. At the same time, however, other cities in the 1990s are touting their high crime levels so they can receive more funding to fight the nascent crack cocaine scourge. Police departments often get the money they request because they emphasize the drug dealer's endless supply of cash, perpetuating the image of millionaire crack dealer. The author then asks, where does the image of millionaire crack dealer come from? And it is actually true that crack dealers make a ton of money. Then they ask, if drug dealers make so much money, why are so many of them living with their mothers? To find out the answer, they looked at the economy of drug dealing. This is one example how the way this author changed my view of economics. Freakonomics points to data obtained by Sudhir Venkatesh, a University of Chicago graduate student who spends years studying an inner-city drug gang in Chicago. During Venkatesh's stint with the gang, one of the members gave him access to the gang's financial books, which reveal that conventional wisdom about drug dealers making a ton of money is just not true. In fact, the drug operation is actually set up very much like an American corporation, and specifically like McDonald's. Few people at the top of the corporate pyramid makes lots of money, while everyone else makes less. As Freakonomics explained, the gang that Venkatesh studies operates like a franchise, and the leader of the franchise, JT, reports to a group of 20 men called the Board of Directors. In exchange for his right to sell crack in the designated area, JT pays the board almost 20% of his revenue. 3 officers report to JT directly, and below the officers are street-level salesmen who are known as foot soldiers. At any given time, JT may have from 25 to 75 foot soldiers on his payroll. Beneath the foot soldiers are about 200 men who are not even employees, and who often are referred to as rank and file. The gang's financial records reveal that the 100 or so leaders on JT's level makes as much as $100,000 per year, and the 20 or so top leaders can make as much as $500,000. Thus, 120 men on the top of the gang's pyramid make a lot of money, but the pyramid is huge. So everyone else underneath it do not make a lot of money. The data reveal, therefore, that most drug dealers do not make a ton of money. In fact, most drug dealers do not make much money at all. Having determined that most drug dealers, in fact, do not make money at all, the author asks the next logical question. If most drug dealers make below the minimum wage in a job where their lives are constantly in danger, why do they do it at all? The answer to that, like acting and other competitive fields, drug dealing is a glamour profession in which people are often willing to get paid a small wage because they are essentially participating in a tournament. A person must start at the bottom of the profession to have a chance at the top. As a glamour profession, drug dealing is appealing because of the hope that one day the foot soldier will become one of the bosses who's making $500,000. What I find compelling about this chapter is why the crack cocaine business exploded in the 1980s, and how that led to a crime surge. The effect of crack cocaine is first analogized to nylon stockings. Nylon stockings are invented in 1939, as opposed to the earlier silk stockings that are fragile, costly, and hard to find. Nylon stockings are very affordable, incredibly appealing, and almost addictive. Similarly, cocaine is a commodity that is available at one time to only a few, but like nylon stockings, it suddenly becomes freely available to the masses in form of crack cocaine. Crack cocaine creates a way for street gangs to make money for the first time, which causes more crime, and within a 5-year period, the homicide rate among young urban blacks quadruples. The violence of the crack cocaine wave coincides with the general increase in crime in America. And by the 1990s, experts are predicting that crime will surge even more. The crime surge, however, never happens. In fact, crime begins to decrease nationwide. And now on to Mike Molchan for the Chapter 2 summary of Freakonomics.
Chapter 2 of Freakonomics deals with the question, how is the Ku Klux Klan and real estate agents similar? The author starts off by talking about how the Ku Klux Klan had its downfall and how real estate agents lost their power to charge higher prices due to the available information on the internet. He explains that real estate agents use information that they're withholding to try and make more money. Basically, the real estate agent will urge you to take the cheaper price and to give him his commission money right away, saving him a lot more time. This makes them somewhat similar to the Klan, because the Klan would withhold information to keep their group alive, hidden, and able to strike. However, he states that comparing real estate agents to the Ku Klux Klan members is a little harsh and exaggerated, and that obviously real estate agents aren't nearly as bad of people or even bad people at all. I realized this going into the chapter, but still the question was so bold that it caught my attention. The author ends the chapter saying how everyone is involved in information abuse and how it happens in our lives every day. With that, he mentions how people on dating sites would withhold information and lie often. He states that 4% of online daters say they earn over $200,000 a year, when statistically less than 1% of the average internet users make that much. This point he made was the most compelling to me, even with all the fraud he talks about real estate agents using. I thought this was so interesting because he really wraps up his point about keeping information, and it really made me think to myself, why would someone lie like that on a dating website? If they were truly looking for love on that website, a bold lie like that would be exposed indefinitely when getting to know that person. Anyway, I don't think the way they studied in this chapter really changed my perception, but more strengthening my idea of economics, that there is going to be a lot of dishonesty in becoming economically successful. It didn't really surprise me when he talked about how dishonest real estate agents were when selling their own houses compared to yours, or how the internet really made it harder for an agent to lie to you. With that said, I still really did enjoy this chapter and all it had to teach about real estate.